studio with my papa.
Well, welcome, everyone. Jeff Adair here, and thank you for that introduction, Jordan. I really appreciate that. Here we are, episode 5 of Here's the Deal with Danny Sidders. Danny, how's it going today?
It's wet outside.
Yes.
It's still a little bit cool, but we're warm and dry in here, and so life is good, and I'm excited to be here for another podcast. So welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for taking the time to listen to what we think and ideas. And so it's been a good experience. It's been a new experience, but this whole COVID year has been a new experience in so many ways. So I'm ready. Let's get going.
All right. Before we get started, though, I wanted to say congratulations on the year of being on YouTube, by the way.
Wow.
It's a fantastic accomplishment. I don't know if that's something next time you get together with all your minister friends, say, hey, guys, I don't know how long you've been on YouTube, but I've got these many subscribers.
That's right. We got a year behind our belt. That's right.
Pretty crazy to think about that, isn't it?
It is.
It is
really
unbelievable
is.
that we, the team here, got all that together and was able to do that within probably about 4 or 5 days.
And that is where the kudos need to go, is to the technology team. You know, I just had to learn to look in a little hole, a little camera, and continue to preach. But the work that's been done by so many, including yourself, has been absolutely amazing. And we would have been lost without you. So thank you to all the technology team.
Definitely, for sure. So let's get into it. So you started your sermon with a story from Viktor Frankl, and it was a story of him calling back to his past in the present time and remembering what he thought about the future and how that helped him get through the awful experience he was going through at the time. And when you were preaching from that story, I thought about Exodus 14. How the Israelites were getting ready to cross the Red Sea, and they were hearing that story, and God's going to be with you, don't worry. And then they're come to the Red Sea, and they see this impossible thing that they can't get across.
Right. So again, wanted to think about the idea of how important our future is. Maybe more important than that, how we think about the future. And this is, again, each week I'm kind of adding layers to the idea. So how we view the end of it all, which, includes the future, determines how we live today, how we view our lives, how we view God,
True,
how we view other people, how I position myself in life, what's important, what are my values, what are my priorities, how do I situate myself in the world around me. So the future is so important, because what I do today impacts the future that I will have later on.
oh, right.
And at the same time, my view of the future impacts the way I live today. And so Frankl was, got caught up in the Nazi concentration camps, lost all of his family members. He almost died several times. And what kept him going was a manuscript that he kept in his pocket for a long time about this topic.
Oh, wow.
And so for him, what kept him going was this idea of, when I get out in the future, I'm going to write this book, and it's going to help people. It's going to change lives. It's going to help them overcome. And so the story was one particular night or day, and it's freezing cold. He doesn't have adequate clothing on. He's skin and bones because of a lack of nutrition, and they're marching, and he comes to the end of his rope and collapses. And the guard comes up and starts screaming and yelling and beating him. And at that moment, he said, I disassociated from the situation,
Wow.
from my present moment, and he projected himself into the future, and he envisioned himself standing in front of an audience, say in Vienna, after the war, and making this lecture about the pull of the future.
Wow.
And that power of the future got him out of that situation and allowed him to keep moving. And so then, when the night he told that story, there was someone in the audience who listened to that, a counselor, who came up with the concept of the pull of the future. The pull of the future. And that is what drives us forward, is how we envision the future. So if the end, the ultimate end, is we're checking out of this place, we're hopping on the heaven transit, and flying out of here. What does that mean for my life today? What am I supposed to value?
Yeah.
What do I put stock in? Should I care about whether or not I take care of myself, my health, relationships? So, those are all important questions. If Jesus is coming back here and somehow, we're going to live here for eternity, a new heaven and a new earth, well, that changes my perspective on life. And so I just had several quotes about, Frankel's quotes about the future and how it really has a major impact on us in how we live life today. And I'm going to argue that how we view the end changes how we live our lives today. But regardless, let's just say on a practical level, what I do today impacts my future. So I'm literally adding layers to my future today by what I decide to do, what I decide not to do, where I choose to position myself in life will absolutely impact the future. So that's kind of a long way of setting the stage for what we talked about Sunday.
So then, quick thing I want to tell you that, you mentioned last week about having soda and Twinkies all the time. You know my future. So before we started recording, I had a nice grilled chicken salad with no salad dressing. So
Good.
I'm going to hopefully know my future a little bit better than soda and Twinkies.
You just added one day to your life today in the future.
The people crossing the Red Sea they had to have thought about the future, especially the ones carrying their babies across dry ground, for sure. Scary as it was, they saw what God had in store for them. We can get stuck just trying to make sure that we have it right and keep our boarding pass. We can lose God's vision for the world and what he has for us. And you mentioned that we should listen to our prayers, and you talked about our faith statements and what the church is supposed to be in regards to the future. Do we as humans always try to get the best or right program in place for when we do get those visitors, we look like we have it all together?
Right. So let me ask you to do this for me, Jeff.
Okay.
So there's about 5 questions there.
Yes.
And I had about 55 thoughts. So
Okay.
I'm gonna jump in, and then whatever I don't cover, call me back to it.
I got you.
So the Israelites were enslaved by the Egyptians, and they prayed to God to deliver them. And of course, most of us know the story that God used Moses to deliver his people out of Egypt. And here they go. They're marching out of Egypt, and they're headed to the land of milk and honey. They got to be rejoicing, and but not long into this adventure, they begin to grumble and complain. What have you done to us? Why did you lead us out here to die? We don't have food. We don't have water. And so God is just moving them in the direction toward Canaan's land, toward the land of milk and honey. But the entire time, God is saying, okay, now, for instance, I will fight for you. Do not be afraid. I will fight for you. I will be the right hand, the hand of strength. And so it kind of goes down like this. Don't be afraid. I will fight for you. Now go fight.
Now go do it.
Yeah. Now go fight. Well, wait a minute, God. I thought you had this and you were going to take care of it. And God says, yes, I'm absolutely going to take care of it. I know the end. I know where it's going to turn out. Uh-huh. But you've got work to do.
Yeah.
You and I have to process through and work through the future that God has in store for us.
Okay.
But you see, I have a tendency to want to take the easy way,
Yeah.
the secure way, the comfortable way, right? God, I believe in you. I'm trusting you, God. Make it happen. And I'm going to sit here with my Twinkie and Ding Dong, and I'm going to wait until...
Wait for you.
Yeah, I'll wait for it to happen. Let me know when the coast is clear.
There you go.
Right, then I'll come out.
Yeah.
But that theologically does not seem to be the way God operates within Scripture. So I don't think it's a contradiction to say that God is the one that provides the way, and God leads, and God is the one who fights for us, and yet at the same time we have to fight through. It's like God says, okay, here's the promised land. Now guess what? You're getting ready to enter the jungle or the forest, and you've got to clear the way.
Yeah.
Now if you just keep chopping wood and weed eating and avoiding the thorns and the bristles and the briars, you'll get there. So, to me, again, that's part of our future, of our end. That the end is going to be glorious, but we have a responsibility. We have a part to play. We want as many people to enjoy the end as we are going to enjoy it.
Correct.
See, so God's not coming along and going to share the gospel. God's not going to be the one that's going to love others and connect with others and be involved in this world. We are Christ's ambassadors now here on earth.
That's right.
So that's my thought on Exodus 14. Now remind me again, what are some of the other...
So now, do we as humans always try to get the best or right program in place so when we do get the visitors, we have we look like we have it all together?
Okay, so again, and I hate to harp on this, but sometimes I forget and I have to remind myself. But anyway, if I'm just checking off this planet, and again, the idea of escapism, and everything's going to be burned up. When I talked about this Sunday, what am I left with?
Yeah.
What am I left with? Well, number one, I'm going to make sure I got the right salvation knowledge.
That's right.
I mean, that's the pinnacle. By the way, that's important.
Yes.
We don't want to be relaxed in that area.
No.
But that becomes most important. And so think about when today, contemporary Christianity today thinks about my Christian responsibility. What is it? Go share the gospel.
That's right.
Go take the good news to other people. Right? Very important. Go into all the world and make disciples and teaching them to obey all things that I've commanded you and baptize them. Right? That is important. But if we are just here, if we're just going to fly away someday, it's really all that we're left with is to share with people, hey, you better get your life right. You're sinful. You're a sinner. You need Jesus so that you make sure you have your boarding pass.
That's right.
All right, that becomes the most important thing, and it is important. But then there's also, in addition to that, I need to behave right. I want to make sure that I do good things, and I want to make sure that I avoid doing bad things. And ultimately, and let's be honest, we claim we don't believe this, but often my life says I do. My life's behavior. I hope my good behavior in the end outweighs my bad behavior.
Right,
somehow, just to sneak in, get a seat on the plane, and hope that my good outweighs my bad. So it's about having the right knowledge of salvation and making sure that my moral behavior is intact. And I then added a third: don't embarrass your family.
Oh yeah.
So I don't want to embarrass myself and embarrass my family. So if I have the right knowledge of salvation, that I work on my morals, doing good, not doing bad, and I don't embarrass my family, that kind of becomes the sum total of Christianity.
I see, yeah.
Now, so if that's the case, based again upon our theology and our doctrinal position of the end, well, that's the kind of people that we are going to become.
Yeah.
That's the kind of people that we're going to produce. And so you take a concept like that and try to construct a church community around that. Well, what are we going to teach them? We're going to hammer on quote, personal salvation every week.
There you go.
We want to make a call to the group at large. Hey, if today you haven't, if you haven't made that connection to Jesus, today's the day, which is good and right. Yeah. We want to preach and teach on here's how you live morally.
Okay.
And with that comes the idea of making sure that we have a family reputation.
Right.
So then what comes of that is we structure our programs and our ministries to fit around what I would argue is an end-time view.
There you go, yeah.
So we got to have programs for, as I said, Sunday, for nursery and children and middle school and high school and singles and adults and young adults and senior adults and ladies and men's and divorced and single and right, all designed to attract people mostly like us, right, who have same views, mostly the same socioeconomic categories, because that's what we have trained our people to view as valuable in a church.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So they're looking for the church that offers the most programs, that have the correct views, morally straight, and good families. Right, so yeah, you mentioned that. So listen to our prayers. If you want to know what we really believe, listen to our prayers. And I would just encourage all of you that when you hear someone pray, focus on what they're saying and ask the question: how do our prayers reveal what we believe about God, what we believe about ourselves, what we believe about the end?
Right.
So every church website has all these statements of faith. Think about it. Statements of faith. This is what we believe.
Right.
So if I'm looking for a church, I want to get on and look at their statements of faith. What do they believe about salvation?
Yeah.
What do they believe about church organization? Right. All these things are listed. And all I'm saying is, we have to be people that ask questions about everything, especially in this world that we live in, and ask questions. What are we trying to accomplish? What do we believe about the end? What is the future? What is the future pulling us toward? If it is pulling us,
yeah.
We may just say, you know what, that's all God's. I'm checking out. I'm just gonna live life today, and whatever comes, comes. But pay attention, ask questions, think about what does it say about. So one of the best exercises that one of my professors made us do on every paper we wrote. So we would be in class and we would read books and we would take tests and do all that, but we'd have to write papers. Every time the assignment was, at the end of this paper, I want the last page to be, if people practiced this particular idea that you're writing about or theology, what kind of people would it create?
Oh, wow, nice.
What kind of person would that make? What kind of community would you have?
Huh.
And I think that is just so important. And so, okay, I'm going to go off on a side rant here.
Let's do it.
We, in this last year, right, so we're a year into online. This has been an unbelievable, remarkable time in history with the challenges and the questions and the fear, but also the opportunity.
Yeah.
Everything is wide open now.
True.
Everything is on the table for us to look at. Personally, relationally, marriage, business, church, politics.
Yeah.
It's all on the table. Now, it drives us crazy at times.
Yes.
Right? So, how many times we're just ready to check out, and do nothing and not think. But this is an opportunity for everything to be examined and looked at and tinkered with, for the opportunity for improvement. And I think that is critical on our own life, our own walk with God and Jesus, and from a church. Yeah. So we're asking the question, what does the future of the church look like? Where are we going?
Yeah.
So you could argue, and some of the church growth experts are telling us, look, 20 to 40% of your people are never coming back to your church. Online services probably are here to stay from this point forward. The latest that I read, and again, I don't know if this is true or not. You can, how do they word it? The education wings of your church buildings are probably going to sit vacant for a long, long time now.
Oh, ouch.
Right, because we're going to smaller settings, smaller groups.
Yeah.
Many of our buildings are just sitting vacant. There's nobody here, and yet we built these buildings for possibly another era, an era that's gone by.
Yeah, that's true.
So what do you do with that? What is the future of church? What is the future? What is the future?
Yeah.
So we're asking this, in several areas. So anyway, Jeff, take it from there and get us back on.
So you asked some really great questions about the church on Sundays, and asked if it's supposed to be a once a week gathering place, so we can be reminded of the correct doctrine, the correct way to worship. Which made me think of those who have a relationship. You may have heard of these, the generational type things, but these are called the nons or nuns.
Yes, please explain that for everybody.
These are the ones that when asked by a research group, say, hey, what is your faith? What is your faith statement? I guess they would ask you that, or what is your belief system? And they would say that they have a relationship with God, they believe in God, but they don't belong to a church or a community of believers. So they're called nons, or my favorite is called nuns, N-O-N-E. And what I've also read and heard from other people that are smarter than me that do this stuff, that comes from the teaching of having a personal relationship with Jesus, and that is okay. So I don't know if that's true or not, but I believe that it does come from that, because there was teachings that if you just have personal relationship with Jesus, you're good.
Right. So personal relationship with Jesus means I've got my ticket punched to go to heaven.
Correct. That's right.
Why do I need anything else?
Yep, that's right.
I'm checking off this planet. I've got my ticket. I don't need all the other stuff.
Yeah.
So isn't that interesting? And by the way, what I said about it was, is the church supposed to be the fountainhead of providing all of these nons or nuns, because they're coming from within the Christian ranks?
Right.
That they just have no affiliation, no commitment to a local church or the church worldwide.
Yeah.
Not interested any longer in being connected to other believers, serving, giving of themselves to a particular ministry for the sake of another.
Yeah.
I just have acknowledged Jesus Christ as my Savior. So what else do I need?
I got my ticket.
Yeah, I got my ticket.
Yeah.
I got my boarding pass. That's all I need. Well, see, again, generically, doctrine shapes behavior.
Yeah.
What we teach, what we say, how we live shapes not only our generation, but the generations that come.
That's true.
But by the way, let's give them a little credit. They're asking a lot of questions of us.
Yes.
They're not satisfied with how we have structured ourselves.
Right.
I think that the highest percentage of a survey that you sent me was they're not satisfied with what we teach.
Correct. Yep.
Which then the correlation with that is not only what we teach, but then what we become and how we live.
Right. That's right.
So our doctrine does shape the people that we produce. So, and again, we live in a country that is known for its, it's called the American rugged individualism.
Oh, yeah.
I do it myself.
Yeah.
And as you and I were talking earlier, the book that came out 25 years ago called Bowling Alone.
Yeah.
That was one of the first that kind of introduced this concept to the American public, that we don't, as a society, tend to look at being in community, being in tribe, being connected, family oriented. We just do it ourselves. I create my own path. I don't stand on the shoulders of people that have come before me. I'm blazing my own path, and that has consequences that also impact not only the country that we live in, but it impacts the church directly.
Yeah.
So all of this is kind of tied together. I don't know if any of this is making sense.
It is for me sitting over here. It is.
It's interesting, but oh my word, we've got a lot of things to think about and to talk about. So anyway, yeah, that's that concept of the nuns or the nons is scary.
It is very scary.
It's scary.
Yeah. When I first got into youth ministry, they were starting to talk about it at youth ministry conferences I would go to. And that's the first thing, that's my first reaction. Looked over at Sarah and go, that is scary.
It's scary.
Yeah. Which leads me to the next part I want to talk about is the parable of the sower that you mentioned on Sunday. Where is the good soil? And I wanted to ask you a question. Is it possible that we can be walking over or through good soil every day and just not know it?
Oh, absolutely. Maybe not know it. Maybe it's not see it.
Not see. There you go. Okay.
I don't see it. Why? Because I have a particular worldview.
Yeah.
I have a particular theological view. I have a particular view of what it means to be a Christian, what it means to be a part of a church. I also have a view of people, right? My moral compass.
Yeah.
Which is a moral compass is a good thing, but if it sets within me the idea of us versus them, well, then it gets skewed. And so, yes, I miss opportunities for good soil. So Jesus tells this parable, and of the 4 types of soil, only one is good soil.
Yeah.
The seed only is fruitful in one of the 4. So this one's a hard one for us to come to grips with.
Yes.
If you do the percentages,
let's break it down percentage-wise.
Break it down. Yeah. Only 25%.
Yeah.
Now soil again is going to represent a person's heart. I think you could argue that it's the hearts of people. It's only 25% that are going to respond.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Yes.
Where do you find that? By the way, why is it our responsibility to be sowing seed? I mean, again, theologically.
Yeah, there you
I
go.
thought, just let God do it. Right. No. We're sowing seed because of the future that is before us, and the vision that we have of the future, of the eternal life that we're going to live. So that's one question. Where is the good soil? But as I said Sunday, the other question is, who is it that really gets this?
Yeah.
Who gets this? Because 75% aren't going to get it.
Yeah, that's...
We just won't take time.
Yeah.
We won't think through it. We won't evaluate. There's too many other things going on. There's too much stress in this world. We live with too much anxiety, possibly a fear of God, a fear of losing our salvation, a fear of doing something wrong morally that might disqualify me from my salvation and might embarrass my family. So we stay within the box.
Right.
I'd rather take my chance, with playing it safe than going to, as we talked about later in the sermon, crossing the lake and going into foreign territory.
Yeah.
So, I do think that we miss it because we don't see it. We don't look for it. We have, again, the preconceived ideas and a mentality that oftentimes keeps us from seeing.
Yeah. Also, you spoke about Moses and them wandering in the wilderness, following God, was a literal experience. I want to know if you could just expand on that a little bit more before we move on to what we touched on with the Israelites coming back from exile. So following God was a literal experience. When people hear that, how do you explain that?
So it's pretty simple. When they were leaving Egypt, follow the cloud.
Oh, there you
follow the pillar of fire. Don't veer left, don't veer right. Where's God? Oh, look up, there he is. Okay, let's go. So we march in lockstep, following God. But now Moses comes along in Deuteronomy toward the end of his life, and they're on the doorstep of the promised land, and says it is important for you to follow God. Well, there's a challenge and there's a question that goes with it at that time. What now does it mean? I look in the sky, there's no pillar of fire, there's no cloud.
It's not as easy as it used to be.
It's not as easy. Where do I go? What do I do? How do I do this? And so I think Moses was instructing the people now, instead of just walking lockstep without thinking, now it becomes learning how to develop the character of God. So we were created in God's image, and so it is incumbent upon us to now develop the character of God. I know, how do you do that?
Yeah.
What does that look like? What am I supposed to do? And so we quickly transitioned into the fact that Jesus said, look, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. And so we take Jesus as the standard of our understanding the character of God.
Yeah.
Watch Jesus. Listen to Jesus. Pay attention. Imitate that behavior. Imitate that love and mercy. So in doing so, then we learn to take on the character of God. So when you ask the question, what I hear is, in the question, is it possible that we still today try to just march lockstep, looking at our church cloud or church pillar of fire or whatever, however you want to describe it, without having to think for ourselves, without thinking about the end and the future and my own spiritual development and my own outreach to other people, loving and caring and blessing them? Yeah, I think that's a real possibility, and I think it's a real challenge for us today.
I think so, yeah. So many things are fighting for our attention, and we need to fight for God. Is what we need to do. So yeah,
I agree.
And I know there's something we kind of touched on earlier, and I was wanting to get back to it and spend a little more time on before we get going. You gave us a quick lesson on when the Israelites came back from exile and how they created so many laws and rules that they basically shut themselves out from the world. How can we as Christians, who maybe feel kind of like they do now, who are coming back to God's presence or church after being gone for so long, can we be safe enough not to fall into that same way of life or that same mentality of, well, we have to create these laws and rules that we can't, that will basically just be worshiping by ourselves?
Yeah, great question. Although I'm now thinking that I may be looking for a new host next week with these questions. No, it's a great question, and so yes, after exile, the Jewish community got it. We disobeyed God. We didn't listen to what He said. We worshipped idols. We get hauled off into exile, where we were slaves for a long, long time. Yeah. Got released, come back, and said, okay, we're not going back to exile anymore. Yeah. Got it. God, you got our attention. We're going to be righteous people. We're going to be God's people. We're going to be honorable. And lo and behold, what was the first thing they thought about doing, and what did they do? They took the laws, the commands, right, those things that they believed put them and kept them in a salvation relationship with God.
There you go,
okay, yeah. AKA, they went to work on their plane ticket, their boarding pass.
Right, okay.
So they expanded on all of the laws, and they created oral tradition. If the law said, keep the Sabbath holy and do not work on the Sabbath, well, that wasn't sufficient for them. What do you mean by work?
Okay.
How do you keep it holy? What defines work? Can I do this? Can I not do that? And so they began to take these laws, the Mosaic laws, and expand them into infinity on what it means to fulfill it.
Yeah.
Can I do this? Can I do that? Is this right? Is that wrong? So they wanted to keep their boarding pass, and they wanted to legislate morality within the community.
Wow. Okay.
You see?
Yeah.
Do this, don't do this. If you do this, you're not in. If you don't do this, you're kicked out. All that kind of language. And of course, for them, family, tribe was everything.
Right. Yes.
Notice how many times, by the way, just side note, how many times that in the New Testament, when the father gets saved, the father's baptized, the whole household gets baptized.
So, yeah, the whole house is his.
It's family.
Yep.
We're all in this thing together. We're a unit that functions together.
There you go.
Now you made me lose my train of thought, but so yeah, they decided we're not gonna mess up again, and so instead of looking at their faith and their righteousness as a way of expanding the love of God to the world, they just clamped down on greater salvation, morality, and family status. It's for some reason that's in so many of our minds religiously. It's hard to kind of separate yourself from it. Well, what else do I do? What else is there?
Yeah. I always think about the first, when you think about all those oral traditions, one of my favorite ones to read through was the if your oxen gets caught in a hole on a Sabbath, is it okay for you to go and get it out, or should you wait for the next day?
Right.
That's one of my favorite ones to read. They're like, okay,
right.
They are getting serious about that. So, yeah. Preview for next week, I know you're going to continue adding layers on. Are you still in the series, or what should we look forward to this Sunday?
I want to this week, I said this last week, and I still have it in mind, what are the practical applications to viewing the future and the power of the future? And how can we, as a people of God, move forward with a view of the future in mind?
There you go. Okay. When Sarah and I, we're going through some tough times after getting married, we came up with the vision board because our counselor told us, hey, why don't you guys get a vision board together and get that going? That was always something that we do, and we still continue to do that. We've probably gone through 4 or 5 different ones, but it's always fun, and we keep them, of course, because that's what we do in America, is we keep stuff like that. But we go through and look at those. I would say that was one thing that worked for us, is a vision board to say, hey, this is what we want to do in 5 years. And we got, we're in a house, we're remodeling it and everything else. So that was on our vision board. So those are a practical way that helped us.
That's the vision board. It's looking to the future.
Yeah.
It's the power of the future, which then gives a pathway to what do I do today?
Correct.
What do I end up, how do I invest my life? I would say this, it's really important, and just each individual listen to this, think about this, process it on your own. But for everyone to continue to grow and to become and to allow the future to pull us in the direction that God's calling us, I think number one, we need a path.
Right.
You have to you got to know where you're going.
Yeah.
What to do, how to do it, the reasons why. But to me, it's not enough. I also need someone, you might call them a coach, a mentor. I need somebody that is wiser than I am to invest in me and help me on this journey, on this path of life, going down the road toward the future. Somebody that I will humble myself and listen to and pay attention, someone that can correct me.
Yeah.
Someone that can at times, discipline me, but love me, encourage me. Say, attaboy, I believe in you.
Right.
You got to have a path. You got to have someone who mentors you. But we also have to have a community that is committed to the same thing.
Correct.
It doesn't work if I say, okay, I got it. I see the future. Here I go. I'm limited.
Yeah.
Even if I say, okay, here I go, and I've got somebody that's coaching me, we need others. We need like-minded people who say, I see the direction. I see the future. I see what could be. I see what the church can become today.
There you go, yeah.
Instead of being, just completely isolated individuals who are trying their best to live out their faith here on earth. We need a community, and we need a community more than ever today. We need a community. You know, you and I work for the Heartland Church of Christ here in Kansas City. We need a community of Heartland people who are willing to say, let's go. Let's go.
We have this vision of what God wants on this earth, and we're going to do it. I love that. Yeah, we do. And you're right. We need community more now than ever. That's so true. I know that when I take Ethan outside and he sees, like at the park, there's a group of people, and he just looks at them like, what are those? I haven't seen groups of people in over a year. Like, I know, buddy, I know. It's weird.
Isn't it interesting how now when you watch television and you see a commercial, like I'm thinking about the AT&T commercial and two people are talking and they don't have masks on.
Yes.
Your first response is,
hey, now.
Oh, hey, you better back up.
That's right. That is.
It is. Things have changed.
I have never thought about that, but you were so right. Yes. So next week, I'll be looking forward to that, and then we'll have a great discussion on Tuesday, I'm sure. And don't forget to send in your questions. If you have any kind of questions for Danny or I about his sermon, or you just have a question about Danny's past or anything you want to know about, send it on into HCOCDigitalMedia at gmail.com, and we'll do our best to get that answered and discussed. Danny, thank you again for sitting down with me. I really appreciate it. Good stuff. I really appreciate you digging into this sermon series, and I'm really enjoying it. So thank you very much.
I enjoy this too, and it's good for me to process and to think, and it helps me in preparing the sermon. What am I going to talk? What questions might people have about this?
There you go.
What are the ramifications of a particular belief? So, no, I'm enjoying it. And I just want to say thank you for all that are listening. Thank you, Jeff, for putting this together. And let's have a great rest of the week.
It's fun. It's all right. Everyone have a great week.